So here's the question. What impact, if any, will Gordon Brown's appearance have on the general election itself? Let's go to Westminster. Tory blogger Harry Cole is there, as is the Labour blog Alex Hilton. Do you fear for the Prime Minister, Alex?
No, not particularly. Why should I, Martin?
Well, he has been in the government that sent us to war, a highly controversial war. He would have been in that inner cabinet, the sofa cabinet. He was consulted. All the criticisms, if there are any, of the war can be laid at his feet.
Oh, you could lay them at his feet. You can lay them at lots of people's feet. And some of the people that suggest that they weren't consulted. The most embarrassing thing for me was Jeff Hoon. There were lots of allegations that Claire Short was deliberately shut out of all sorts of information. Jeff Hoon, they seem to have just forgotten to tell Jeff Hoon lots of information, the Defence Secretary. I think that's mightily embarrassing.
But the Prime Minister was Chancellor of the Exchequer in this period of time. He was the man who will have to answer questions about the build-up. He will have to answer questions, surely, about withholding money to purchase new helicopters and a whole host of other things.
Absolutely, and he'll answer them, because these questions about defence spending, they've been going on ever since there's been defence spending. It's a new one. A new inflection is the issue about whether spending the money early tells the enemy that you're going to be sending your soldiers. If you give your enemy, if you give your soldiers some body armour, but you tell your enemy that they're coming, perhaps that's not necessarily any better for their welfare. I think there are some other issues in terms of helicopters, this and the other. The fact is that if you took every piece of defence spending and compared it to the Arts Council budget, you would always choose the stuff that that saves people's lives other than the Arts Council budget. But are you going to tell me on this programme that we should cancel the Arts Council budget to do that?
Harry's wincing at that analysis. Why?
Well, essentially, I think it's vital that Gordon Brown gets his moment in the limelight, gets his moment in scrutiny. He knowingly sent the troops into combat underprepared, and to try and dismiss it as an argument between that and the arts budget is slightly trivial. I think it's brilliant news.
With the word underprepared, Harry, you don't mean underprepared, do you?
Sorry,
the British forces are perhaps the best prepared, the best trained anywhere in the world. What you might have an argument about is equipped.
Exactly, sorry. Choice of words could have been better there, but what I was referring to is the allegations that Jeff Hoon has made towards Gordon Brown, and he needs his moment in the limelight to either clear his name or he's got some very serious questions to answer at the very least.
You see, the two of you actually have an interesting question to ask. Here's one blog which actually puts a lot of credit to Nick Clegg, because they say it was his lobbying, his pressure, his questions, normally with the usual murmurs of derision around him in the House of Commons, that actually brought this about. Do you think, Alex?
Well, do you know what? A lot of people did the right thing. Whether we went to war or not was the right thing or not is a big question. Whether it was illegal, certainly wasn't illegal, but whether it was the right thing to do or not, I opposed it at the time, and it was the largest Labour rebellion in the history of Labour governments ever against that particular vote to go to war with Iraq. It was the Tory party that voted almost to a man to go to that war.
So, Alex, here's the thing. The point about our discussion tonight is, if we accept that, in the face of that rebellion, led by Tony Blair, they still went ahead anyway, does that not damage the fortunes of this Prime Minister about to go to the electorate?
This is the point. You know, a parliament voted to go to war. I don't think it. You know, all of them. This whole corrupt parliament with their dodgy expenses and their self-interest. They voted to go to a war. I don't see why it sits at Gordon's door any more than it sits at Jeff Hoon's door or any other cabinet minister at the time.
Alex, you know very well that Gordon Brown supporters were putting around the fact that he was distanced from Blair, he wasn't necessarily involved with Blair's mistakes in going to war. That's not necessarily true, and that's what this inquiry is going to reveal.
Harry, I don't know about you, but you may be in with Gordon's friends and stuff, but I read some stuff in books and newspapers. That's how I get that sort of information. I'm not really in the inner circle in that sense.
I can't say
frankly, Harry, all these books and newspapers are always going on about what distance there was between the Prime Minister and the Chancellor over years. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's a thing where they should have been working together, and they should be collectively responsible for the decisions they've made. I'm a bit pissed off with people like Jack Straw suggesting that he was he was trying to stop it all from happening. He didn't mention that at the time, as far as I recall. A lot of people were trying to stop it. Claire Shaw, the late Robin Cook. You know, a lot of people did some stuff to try and stop it happening.
Let's, Harry, have a turn here, because I'm just going to go to you, Harry, via this particular blog here, which is making the point that the inquiry itself, which might have just disappeared into another inquiry, is now going to be much more interesting. The writer of this particular blog saying certainly it's going to affect the election timing, and it will have a material effect on the outcome.
I think it could have a very big impact on the election. What we have here is we have Gordon Brown essentially in the dock. It's not a court, but we have him in the spotlight, and we're going to know exactly what his role is, and he's going to be under intense scrutiny. He tried to avoid it. He knew inevitably the pressure was mounting, hence why he wrote to Chilcot. All credit to Nick Clegg. This is going to be a game changer.
Harry, did you just say that he tried to avoid it, therefore he wrote to Chilcot asking to give evidence?
After inevitable pressure. The pressure has been building up for the last couple of weeks. Nick Clegg has been on this very well. The Tories threw their weight behind it, and now Gordon Brown's got to answer for himself.
I have to call time out there and send you guys off, but we'll talk again another time, I'm sure, as we get closer to it. Thank you very much indeed. Now then, the story